how much have you been following things with Somaliland?
I mean, I hadn't until we started talking about doing this podcast. um, I mean, I don't want to get ahead of myself, until we start like talking about what happened, what the current events are. But I read up on it a little last night.
Nice.
So the reason this is the big deal right now, these are the kind of things that people talk about all the time. There's all sorts of separatist nations that want to, start up and start new countries. But right now, the US government is actively discussing this. So here is a letter from Ted Cruz to Donald Trump on this issue. It says, "Dear President Trump, I write you urge your administration to formally recognize the Republic of Somaliland as an independent state, with sovereignty within its 1960 borders. Somaliland first gained independence and international recognition in 1960 before voluntarily uniting with Somalia later that year. Since moving to reclaim its independence in 1991, it has functioned as a stable, self-governing democratic nation. It has held several peaceful elections since 2003, marked by strong voter turnout and peaceful transitions of power. Somaliland has emerged as a critical security and diplomatic partner for the United States, helping America advance our national security interests in the Horn of Africa and beyond. It is strategically located along the Gulf of Aden, putting it near one of the world's busiest maritime corridors. It possesses capable armed forces and contributes to regional counterterrorism and piracy operations. It has enabled the opening of a Taiwanese representative office in the capital of Hargeisa, sought to strengthen ties with Israel and voice support for the Abraham Accords. It has proposed hosting a U.S. military presence near the Red Sea along the Gulf of Aden, and is open to critical minerals agreements that would support our supply chain resilience. The U.S.-Somaliland partnership is robust and it's deepening. Somaliland faces mounting pressure from adversaries due in no small part to its role as a partner for the United States and our allies. The Chinese Communist Party is using economic and diplomatic coercion to punish Somaliland for its support for Taiwan, as well as to undermine that support. The government of Somalia has played an unfortunate role in these efforts. In April 2025, the CCP arranged for Somalia to bar Taiwanese passport holders from transiting into Somaliland, and Chinese support to Somalia is benefiting anti-Somaliland groups working to erode its sovereignty. Despite these threats, Somaliland remains committed to forging closer ties with the US and is actively engaged in enhancing military cooperation, counterterrorism efforts, and economy and trade partnerships. To do so, the great effect and the greatest benefit to American national security interests. It requires the status of a state. I urge you to grant it that recognition. As always, I stand ready to provide you with whatever resources and support you require in helping to secure this goal."
It's interesting, isn't it?
Very interesting.
Yeah. And I mean, just so everybody knows, like, Ted Cruz is a nobody. He ran for president a couple times. Like, even when the Republicans are out of power, he still has a lot of influence. So, yeah, that's not a nobody thing.
Right, this is one of the biggest voices in the Republican Party.
This is a big voice.
Going back to the establishment of Somaliland, if people think that Somaliland is a new idea, it's not, as the letter itself says, and a little bit of history, that it was a country back in 1961, and then they volunteered with mainland Somalia and then regretted it within a week or two.
Yeah.
So I think that decision, but I do not know why international community or UN did not accept it. It's a sovereign state to this day, and I think one important aspect that we need to look at here is countries align with countries based on their interests. When we say America's interests are there, of course, America will do something. If its interests are not there, America is not going to bother. That's my simple line equation. So here, I think United States need that particular land for their, I would say, Red Sea operations, or Gulf of Eden operations, or keeping an eye on the pirates out there, or like United States wants presence there. So I think the motive behind it is that, and with the caveat, I think in near future, we gonna see Somaliland as one of the independent states on the map of the world.
Yeah, and the letter says that, right? It's not like he's trying to hide the fact. It's like, why should we do this? Number one, it's good for us.
Mm-hmm.
And number two, hey, this is good for them too. And from a foreign policy perspective, I think being honest about those things is good.
Yeah, but I don't want one thing, and it has happened in the past, and it brought catastrophic effects. When we want to implement, I would say, not real change, um, an artificial change, uprising in the people against one particular nation that give rise, for example, you put in a lot of resources in, for example, Libya. What happened in Libya, where Libya is standing today? If you ask Libyan people, they will say, okay, we were living under dictator. Of course, we don't want Gaddafi. We didn't like Gaddafi. But the Somalia, I'm saying, Libya back then was better economically, or the standard of life was better than what it is right now, right? So yes, we or United States should not rush this decision that no, we want to do it, but we will not do it organically, but let it like fast track it, and that will have consequences, I guess.
Sure. I think the difference here is that this is happening organically already, right?
Mm-hmm.
So Somaliland is seeking its own independence and partners, and it's a natural nation already. And so I think that's very different than Libya, which is like this basically requires no regime change. It's simply recognizing the sovereignty of Hargeisa over a certain amount of territory rather than arbitrarily recognizing Mogadishu as the sovereign of all the
Mm-hmm.
territory, right? Because functionally, the government in Mogadishu has no presence in Somaliland already.
Mm-hmm.
It's just a case of whether it's recognized or not.
Right.
Yeah, I think one thing that I would just observe from 30,000 feet, the high view, is that I'm actually I'm excited about some of the things that foreign policy has done lately. Like they are finding partners in different places, right? So, finding partners in the Arabian Peninsula, looking for partners in like Somaliland, right? Like not necessarily taking, this kind of post Cold War approach to things that lead to isolationism, So I'm excited about that. Listen, China is a problem. They're a problem for the whole world, right? Because China's in it for China. And China's going to try and expand, and they're going to put their diplomatic and economic pressure on anyone who doesn't see things their way. Um, I do think that if this has to go before the UN, we need to acknowledge that the UN is not like a democracy, right? Like you're allowed to say whatever you want, but then there are 3 or 4 countries that have complete veto power and can just shoot everything down.
Mm-hmm.
So um, I don't think that, I don't think that it'll come to that. I think that what this letter in particular is asking for is the United States recognize them as a partner. And I don't see a problem with that. And I think that when you start recognizing like nation states as whether or not they're going to be your ally or not, first of all, you have to do what he just did, right? You have to list all of the positives. You have to also list all of the negatives. And if the negatives outweigh the positives, you should not be an ally with that person. If it creates a trade deficit with you, if there's no strategic element to it, if it doesn't benefit your country in anything, if you're just going to sit there and pour billions of dollars into supporting a government that is, not functional, then you shouldn't do those things, right? But I think what I'm seeing right now is positive. Like, listen, terrorists are awful. Piracy in the Red Sea is bad. Like it's really bad. They made a movie about it. Like, look at me, I'm the captain now, right?
Mhm.
Like, you know, this is a big problem for the entire world. And China's not going to step in and fix it. China's not going to sit there and try and enforce like free trade in that area. They're going to do what benefits them. And, by proxy, like the Russians will too. So what do you have to do, right? At this point, you're seeing the world just kind of choosing sides, you know. And I think that in the middle of that, like let's pick a partner that has had elections. Let's pick a partner that has, at least since 2003, a track record of, headed towards progress. I don't know what their human rights situation is, but it makes it sound pretty good, and I think it's definitely better than Somalia. So, I'm all for it.
Yeah, and I think one other aspect that is, I think, worth mentioning is that Somalia is going through turmoil for a very, very long time. And in that case, there is a hope. The hope is like, if I don't know who will be the ruler and what type of governance they're going to apply, whether it's going to be democratic or another dictator ruling Somaliland. If that is the case, I have a bias against dictatorship, and I think we all do, right? We are against dictatorship. So if another dictator
Who
is
was that
taking,
one guy? No, I'm kidding.
you're talking about the movie?
I'm talking about that episode of Family Guy
Okay.
where Peter made his own country called
I thought you were
Pretoria.
talking about the dictator movie.
Oh yeah, no, not dictator.
Aladdin.
Aladdin. Anyways, yes, James. So going back to that, I think if it's Somaliland is ruled by another dictator, maybe for 5, 6, 7, or God knows for how long, he will serve U.S. interests. But then if he flips the side, then what's next?
Yeah, I mean, although it really doesn't look like it's happening so far, because their argument of why they should be a country is that they've had peaceful transitions of power and have been doing so for like decades at this point.
Mm-hmm.
So the culture of the country doesn't have a dictatorship currently, and all they're asking is the current government of the Somaliland province of Somalia becomes the government of Somaliland, which, if I'm looking at how a revolution should be conducted, this is like exactly what I'd want to see. So I think we've talked about before, biblically, I don't believe in mass amounts of people taking arms against their government and sort of overthrowing them, hanging the dictator, etc., like the French Revolution. What I believe in is the doctrine of the lesser magistrates, meaning that people lower than the supreme ruler, but who are nevertheless in the government, should take measures to protect their citizens from the central government and actually build something that serves people, and then eventually can properly secede from the central government and build their own thing. And that is exactly what is happening in Somalia. From a sort of biblical case, from everything that appears on the surface, they've done everything the way they should be doing things as far as building is like legitimately making secession. And we talk about why the UN hasn't recognized this so far. This is just my theory about this, but there are lots and lots and lots of people groups that want to secede and make their own nation states. And anytime the country succeeds in doing that, suddenly there's a lot of people in the woodworks who are like, "Oh, why can't we be a country? Why can't we be a country?
Yeah.
Which, looking at you, Idaho, Oregon, Northern California, Eastern Washington."
So it basically, every time it happens, it opens up the question, or wait, why are we part of this country again? And national governments hate those kinds of things, and they're generally trying to avoid that happening, which is sometimes a good thing, sometimes a bad thing.
Yeah, I think it's a beautiful oversight over this particular thing that UN see those things and kind of like look at this domino effect. It becomes a domino effect. For example, back in 1947, you see how many nations were born because once Great Britain pulled out, a lot of independent nations came, and then upon it, other nations got the idea. Same happened
Post World War One too.
Yeah, post World War One, and then Soviet decline. After Soviet decline, how many other countries kind of like follow that route? So, given that, I think it's a very valid point. But I think at the end of the day, we should be hopeful that the transition is smooth, and there is no external artificial force applied.
Hmm.
I think aiding is different. You are there to help them to a certain degree is okay. But to just go on and artificially implement that, this is what I am against. And it has not worked in the past and it failed again and again. So it is not that something that should be repeated. So that's
What do you mean it went so well in Iraq and
I
Afghanistan?
was going to say that, right? Like, I think we're moving away from, I mean, hopefully we're moving away from um, nation building, right? Like, let's try and install democracy as a new operating system or something like that. And it doesn't seem to have like the kind of effect that we wanted to have. But
right.
truth be told, in this particular situation, it looks like you don't have to do that. And I think it's a no-brainer in those situations too, right? Like you share like, some of our values,
Hmm.
so let's be friends, right? Like that seems like common sense to me, particularly in an area that's, been destabilized for so long. I
Yeah.
mean, so long, right? Like, listen, Ethiopia has never been conquered, right? But Ethiopia has also had like a really nasty internal conflict between North and South Ethiopia. So that's a stable country, but it's like splitting in half, right? Like
Hmm.
you're watching this happen before your eyes, and you have to kind of sit back and wait and see how things play out, like in Ethiopia.
Yeah.
So, you know, is it wrong after things have played out to want to be like, well, who's the side that is closest to us, right? Like, we need allies. We need strategic partners in the area, in Africa, in the Gulf states, right? In the Middle East. We need them, and we don't have them. And it seems like we need them now in like Eastern Europe too. So,
Yeah.
we need them in different places. And if we don't have them, and I'm talking from an American perspective. If people like are like, well, that's an American thing. Sure, why not? I live in America. I want it to do well. My kids are here. You
Yeah,
know,
and I think as Christians living in America, we can both we should the kind of policies we should be advocating for are win-win policies,
yeah,
right? No,
absolutely.
we shouldn't be wanting to expand American interests at the expense of the rest of the world, but in there's a way that America can win and other people can win too.
Yeah,
Those are best case scenarios, and this could be one of those.
agreed.